processing disorder. Sometimes my condition makes me feel isolated from other people, but sometimes I find unexpected connections. My guest today is Anna Olson, and like her, I too am often told that aspects of my disorder are too something. Like you're too sensitive, or you're too emotional, or you're too something. And I don't think what people realize is that by saying that I'm too something, it's really not helpful. For one, is because I can't stop whatever is bothering me and making me oversensitive or making me overexcitable. And it also makes me feel even more isolated than I would if someone had some empathy and tried to get to the bottom of actually what was going on with me. But Anna doesn't live with SPD. She lives with clinical depression. Thank you for coming, Anna. Can you describe clinical depression in your own words?
For me, it's not just a feeling of like being sad or like just like, oh, my pet fish died the other day, like it's a tragedy like that. And obviously that may be like really sad for some people, but it's more of a continuous feeling that you don't necessarily know the cause for. And most of the time for me personally, I never really know the cause for why I'm feeling this way. And that's how I know it's the depression side of it rather than just like going through like a hard time or something. Like I know it's hard to distinguish between what may be depression and what may be just like a rough patch, where it's like if you're having a falling out with a friend, that's okay, you're sad, you know, that's a sad experience. Whereas with depression, it's more of there's no particular reason and it's kind of continuous and it's hard, yeah.
How do you feel like clinical depression affects you in society?
In society, I feel like it's more of sometimes people give you a certain image that you feel like you have to follow in a way, kind of, but it's not, it's like filing, so they're like putting you in their filing cabinet of maybe some people that they don't really want to like be around with as much, or someone that they makes them nervous to be around with. That's a big thing that sometimes affects like relationships or like anything really, where it's like people may be nervous to be around someone because they think that they're gonna like get upset at any random second or like something like that. But it's like it's not like it's not like it's like, oh, you're gonna push one button, I'm gonna collapse, you know. It's typically for me not really like, because I'm so extroverted, I don't mind being around people and I don't mind anything like that at all. So it's not motivated from other people's views or other people's like interactions with myself, but like with how it treats me within society, it's definitely the idea of people maybe not wanting to like be as close with me or being scared to be close with me because they don't really know how or why I'm like acting like this. And I think that's why one of these like kind of shows are so important, because it like helps people learn what this is and like learn, okay, they're not gonna like just like collapse on me, it's okay, you know, that kind of stuff.
So following up on that, what do you think people should know about clinical depression and about how it affects your daily life and your total outlook kind of thing?
They should know that it's not, you can't, when you're diagnosing one person with one illness, it's not that they have all of them. That's something that sounds a little confusing, but that's something that people tend to confuse a lot with me personally. Where it's like, just because I do have depression doesn't mean that maybe I'm possibly bipolar or anything like that. Because people tend to have one idea with mental illness and that's all that they see. But there's so many different branches and like different looks at it, right? So it's not like being bipolar is so different than being like someone who may be depressed, you know? And so I think people need to recognize those differences and know that there's also not the same warning signs for each one's too. Like when you know, there's like school health books and textbooks and all that kind of stuff, I took health in freshman year, and it was not, the books were very like, the warning signs, oh, a sudden change in their life. Well, you can have a sudden change in your life and not be depressed. You might just want to cut your hair and that's the end of it, you know? It's not like a big deal where it's like, careful, you might not want to like aggravate them. It's knowing that everybody's different, like you said before, but knowing that you can't assign something to someone without knowing the full like context of it and knowing that it's gonna vary and it's okay to try to figure that out, but maybe you can ask most of the time. You just have to like know signals and know what people are comfortable talking about. So it can't be like just go up to someone like, are you depressed? You can't do that, like that's rude. But know that you can't like assume anything, I think.
Are you able to recognize when you're becoming depressed, or is it a constant with you, or is it like an up and down?
It's up and down. It comes in waves is what I always say, where it's like, it's not, a lot of times it can be spurred on by different things. For example, if I just am like, you know, because I'm in school, so if I'm like got a really bad like grade on something or whatever, then it's like, okay, well, this is, again, like I differentiate, this is sadness, but that sadness can easily turn into depression, because then it becomes thoughts more of, okay, it's not that I just did bad on this test, it's that I'm not good enough for A, B, or C, you know, things like that. So yeah, it's waves, and again, it's not always, for me, it's better when there's a reason like that, because it makes it much, much easier. Sometimes it's just me like sitting in my bed and being like, you know, just like kind of struggling, and it's, I don't know why why it's coming on now a lot of times, and it's just like random. For me, all my friends know and my family knows that I lose my energy very, very, very quickly. So I'm very, very extroverted and all that kind of stuff, but I'll be at like a party or something and I'll immediately like lose all my energy and just want to go home. And that's a really odd thing for me, and I wouldn't call it like a full wave of depression, but it's more of like just losing my previous like energy and excitement and whatnot, and that's where like the full-on waves come in, where it's like there's nothing that could have like spurred this on except for just the random like up and downs that it causes for me.
Do you feel like are you absolutely going to have a depressive episode if something happens, or can you get past some of them sometimes?
I hope I can. You know, it's always with like, of course I will always want to get past it, but in all honesty, most of the time, it depends. It's like, it depends on the severity of the situation, and there's ways I can control it, or it's simple things like self-care, which can sometimes help, or talking to my friends sometimes helps. And it's hard because for personally, I have seen, like I do see a psychiatrist and I have seen a therapist, but sometimes that doesn't help as much for me, because it's like, I personally am not great with talking about specifically my problems. Like I am fine talking about, like, obviously I wouldn't have done this otherwise, like illness and all that kind of stuff, but like going through and talking about the problems I'm currently having kind of reminds like the problem to me, and that's when it kind of gets worse, because the more I think about it, so I have a habit of like disassociating in a way, which isn't great, but like, so that's why I have to be careful. So that I wouldn't say that I can fully take myself out of a situation, unfortunately. I wish I could, but I try to be careful around it and know that, like, I have friends who have, like, one of my really, really close friends has gone into treatment before, and she like went to like Utah and Hawaii for months at a time, and that was really hard. And I'm absolutely fine being around her, and I know it won't like trigger me or anything like that, because I love her and I'm friends with her. Whereas the people who will purposely try to say things, like, you know, I'm guilty of joking about like, oh, I'm gonna kill myself and all that kind of stuff, but that's not okay to joke about, and I need to realize that more. But it's more of, there's a certain kind of personality that does that way too much, and is just bringing that kind of stuff on it needs to like stop. That's the situation where I know I can control myself and control the environment I'm in, and I can remove myself from there. So in that way, yes, I can prevent it from happening, but in other, like, just my own emotions, not really. A lot of times I can't really control that kind of side, and I do take medication, but it's hard because for me personally, I don't feel any difference really from the medication I take, which is something that I've had to like work out with my psychiatrist a lot, where it's like, it's hard because it's not a noticeable difference necessarily, but it's more of like, it's still treating like the actual chemical imbalance, but you know, it's hard to, it's not like it's like, oh, I'm automatically happy-go-lucky, you know, it's not immediate, so it's hard.
Do you feel like there are times when you're trapped in like a social situation and you can feel that you're not starting to not feel well, but then you feel like you're trapped?
For sure. I'm a theater kid, so whenever I don't know why, but I love theater, but the people in theater can get very overwhelming very quickly because everyone's very loud and excited and whatever. And whenever I'm in like some sort of mood or like just struggling, it's really hard to be around that environment. And there are many times, especially, I don't know why, I love theater and I love to be in it, but for some odd reason, that's where it mostly happens, those kind of moments where it's like, I need to get out of here now. I think it's just overwhelming with like certain emotions where it's like two broad spectrums, right? Where it's like, okay, the theater kids over here are screaming and I'm over here like, you know, just trying to focus and bring it in and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's two extremes. So with that, I can definitely feel like myself like kind of like declining in a way. And in the same way that in the setting of like parties also is a hard situation for me personally as well.
Do you feel like it's harder to have close relationships with people?
No, I don't. And I think that's like some people do think it's harder because it depends on, so I know, like I mentioned my friend earlier, she has a hard time sometimes because her depression is more focused on, she really removes herself a lot more than I do. So I remove myself from that spectrum of feeling in that way. So like I don't talk about that side of me, but I have other sides of me that are still present. Whereas she may not respond to you on Instagram or respond to you on messages or whatever she's talking to you on. That kind of like way depression manifests certainly may have an impact, but me personally, I don't think so. And I hate that, and it's become a problem kind of personally for me in a way that people assume in that kind of fashion where it's like it's harder for me to have close friends, but it really isn't for me because of how social I am, and because of the feelings I have. It's so much worse to watch, I will say this till the end of the days, it's so much worse to watch a friend go through depression than go through depression yourself. Completely 100% totally for me, maybe different for someone else, I don't speak for everybody, but if like one of my friends is really, really struggling, I'll probably get closer with them in response to that because I know how it feels, I know what it feels like, and I just never want to see any of my friends like that ever. So it really depends, but like I can only speak personally, obviously, but for me, I don't think it limits having close friends at all.
So you mentioned the misconception that depression is being sad.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you actually feel, if you feel at all, when you're having a major episode?
It's hard to feel at all in a way. It's people kind of mentioned it, like a lot of people call it like numb in a way. It's not necessarily, again, it's personal, but like into a person. But for me, it's just whatever I may be looking at or whatever I may be seeing, I perceive it in a fashion that is negative. So it's not just being like, oh, you're a pessimist. Like, no, I just can't perceive things like as I would normally. Where it's like, for example, if I just got cast as a certain role or whatever, and it's like a good role, but when I'm in kind of a certain wave, like an upper wave of one of my like episodes, it's like I can't perceive it in a positive fashion. And it's like, it's really hard to look at things in a certain lens when you don't have that lens available. So it's, if I were to choose a like adjective that would like mainly encompass it, I would say numb, but that's kind of like pretty common, and it's hard for some people to understand what numb feels like. Most people like know, oh, numb is like when your foot goes to sleep, right? I'm like, well, not in emotions. It's more of just not being able to connect, not being able to see things as they are.
So you can't access those emotions.
Yeah, it's like a block, but it's not that I can't understand them. It's like I'm still it's not like I can not have a conversation with someone who's happy. I'm not gonna be like, oh, that sounds cool. I can still understand them. It's just I can't sometimes fully feel them in a way, you know?
Do you ever feel any frustration around?
Oh yeah. It's frustrating. It's a way where I want to be able to look at when you're texting a friend about something that frustrates you or something like that, and they try to show you the positive of it, it's like the feeling of like, well, easier said than done. You know, it's things like that where it's like, God, I wish I could. You're right. I know you're right, but I can't. There's no way for me personally to like feel that, and that's also general. That's not just for people with depression. That's a very like the whole like way of thinking of like the easier said than done is very like common for most people, right? Where it's like, it's like how in writing, so like I'm in an AP Lang class, and I think I can edit way better than I can write, because I can see what the problem may be, I can see what they're doing wrong, but do I know how to fix it? No. So I don't necessarily know how you can fix it, but being able to identify that is like different in a way, you know?
So how do you deal with your frustrations? Do you talk to somebody about it?
I should. I don't as much as I should. How I deal with it more of is kind of just going through myself and just processing it slowly. Unfortunately, I don't do it the best. I kind of just let it pass. I probably should find a little more healthier coping method, and that's the thing too, where it's like some people, you know, it's okay to recognize that you may not cope the best, and it's better to recognize that than ignore it, you know. But I think, well, I know one of my friends will always like, she'll help me out by like just like texting me, being like, hey, just like do a bath bomb or something like that, you know, or like just like calm down, just take a moment to yourself and realize, okay, here's what I'm feeling. I also write a lot. I write poetry. I don't do it as much as I did in previous years just because I'm really, really busy, which is, you still need to take time to yourself. So I need to definitely work on that personally. But yeah, so I write, I calm down, I have time for myself, all that kind of stuff.
Is there anything else that you think that we haven't covered that you think is important about clinical depression?
Not really, but just other than that, just to emphasize on the fact that it's I don't want to say it's normal, but you can't treat it like it's some sort of full-on contagious disease. Just because you're being around someone doesn't mean you're gonna like catch it. You don't need to wear a mask and a hazmat suit. You can chill, it's fine. Like, you're not gonna get hurt, I'm not gonna get hurt by just being together. It's not something that is contagious. I hate when people perceive it that way, because it's not like I have measles or smallpox or anything like that. It's okay to be friends with people, and it's really important to be friends with people, but also you have to recognize you're never responsible for someone else's life. And that's the thing where sometimes it gets really convoluted in the sense where people sometimes will use their depression to manipulate others, which is awful. Like, I've had it done to me before where someone has like gone as far as faking a suicide attempt, and that is so not okay ever, to try to manipulate someone's feelings with that kind of thing. So it's like you have to understand both sides, right? That you can be like close people who may have depression, but you can't manipulate that out of someone, or if you yourself cannot manipulate others in that perspective.
Great, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for watching Connection. I hope that these conversations show everyone that no matter what we face, no matter what differences we have, we can find common ground. Ultimately, we're all connected.